and welcome to Your Favourite Teacher. Today we're going to be looking at Tissue from the Power and Conflict cluster. Darker's poem Tissue is probably one of those you're least likely to hope appears on your literature paper too. Never fear though, the poem itself centres around one simple metaphor which, once understood, unlocks the rest of the poem's meaning. The title of the poem introduces the main extended metaphor, comparing the flimsy paper on which history, law and religious beliefs are written down on with living tissue of people who are controlled by and have the chance to change those rules and beliefs. By comparing both life and the system of control to paper, Darker's trying to emphasise the fragility of human life and human society, as well as our ability to alter the future and change the sometimes harmful effects of society's rules and institutions for the better. The first lines of the poem actually attempt to make this message clear before the rest of the poem describes it. The words, "paper that lets the light shine through, this is what could alter things," meaning that the fragility and transparency of paper is exactly what will allow us to change the world for the better. The reason we can tell that Darker means this change will be for the better is through the use of light imagery. Light is often a symbol of hope, so for the light to be able to shine through paper and all that it represents means that there's still hope for a change in the world. The poem begins with Darker introducing various symbols which represent the rules and order of society. Items like the Quran, history books and birth certificates are all used to symbolise the kind of paper which establishes rules and order in people's lives. It's important to note that Darker doesn't imply that any of these objects are negatively controlling people, just that they do control people in some way. The Quran, for example, is a symbol of religious order which can both give helpful structure or harmful repression to different people and different circumstances. In the same way, birth certificates can control and give structure because they attempt to record facts and keep the world in order. By the fourth stanza, a strange metaphor is introduced, where Darker states, "If buildings were paper, I might feel their drift, see how easily they fall away on a sigh." This image of paper which can drift and fall away again implies the fragility of paper, just like the fact that it is thinned, mentioned in the first stanza. However, this stanza also introduces the fact that there are some things which might not change. Darker's speaker states that if buildings were paper, they might be easy to change. The word "if" here implies that at the moment there are some things which are not easily as changeable as paper. Furthermore, the use of the word "if" here can create the impression that the speaker is hopeful that one day such things will be able to change. This hopefulness is also emphasised by the light imagery throughout the piece, which implies hope as well as the fact that the speaker begins by stating light could alter things. The modal verb could here functions just like the word if, implying that although it isn't currently possible, the speaker is still hopeful that such a change could occur later on. The speaker's hopefulness is also seen later in the poem when she states that receipts, another piece of paper, might fly our lives like paper kites. This simile compares receipts, which control and order the world, to a kite, something which often implies hopefulness, especially through the reference to its flight. The fifth stanza introduces another interesting symbol of control when it states, "Maps too, the sun shines through their borderlines." It's significant here that Darker refers to the borderlines being shined through, as borderlines are the part of the map that divides up the separate countries. Through this image, Darker might be implying that light and her own hopefulness might also allow for such divisive parts of the world to be abolished as well. By the second half of the poem, Darker becomes much more clear and decisive on what systems and rules control humans unfairly. The maps and their borderlines are one of these, but in the end she refers to the light which can break through capitals and monoliths through the shapes that pride can make. At this point, the speaker is imagining a new kind of architect, someone who works with light, transparent paper described as luminous script. The use of light imagery here, describing how the architect works with luminous script, implies that this new type of building is a source of hope and change, just as other references to light have been throughout the poem. Here, the capitals and monoliths, which Darker states the architect would break with daylight, might be interpreted as symbols of government, a force which controls the people of the world. The fact that she creates the image of these symbols being broken by daylight suggests they ought to be broken down and changed by sunlight, and the hope for change which Darker refers to within this symbol of light. By the end of the poem, Darker uses the metaphor which compares living tissue and systems of order. She does this to suggest the way that people have the ability to create change. The final line, turn into your skin, connects human life with the rest of those structures and implies Darker's overall message, that everyone has the chance to create change. This is established by the pronoun your, which is used to draw readers' attention to themselves and reconsider the way that they affect the world around them. I'm Miss Meeks and we've been looking at tissue from the Power and Conflict cluster.